Okay guys, welcome to lesson 13. We're going to be creating the assembly drawing of frame A. Now you can see the solution here that I've created on the screen in PowerPoint. A couple of things to explain about the process so far. So the whole purpose of creating all of the different parts, assembling them all into 3D models, is so that you can then create these workshop drawings that someone on the workshop floor would then be able to follow and be able to correctly assemble together. These, of course, are very similar to the sketches that you did previous in the year when you had to create your cutting list. So let's have a bit of a look at what this assembly drawing might look like. Look at its different features and its purposes. Now you'll notice that this assembly drawing down in the bottom right hand corner has a parts list, and inside that parts list is some item identifiers, number 1, 2 and 3. And these numbers here relate directly to these numbers inside these balloons, which we commonly refer to as bomb balloons or bill of material balloons. So number 1, there's item number 1, it is the plate A, and you can see there's 1 and there's 2 of those, and it tells us quantity there's 2. Plate A, what are they made from? Radiata pine. So on then with number 2, which is the studs, so there's 6 studs. Now I didn't put a 2 on every single one of these because it would get too clogged. And the last thing, of course, is 3, which are the blocks, and you can see there are 3 of those. So straight away you can see that this assembly drawing uses 2 forms of communication. We get this parts list to identify the parts and what they are and how many of them there are, and that is a lot of the time best done on a 3D view. You can easily see which parts are which here. And the other side of the drawing over here is what we call the front and top view of the frame A. And on that we have dimensions that relate to the overall dimensions, what we call them the functional dimensions of the object. Notice not every single part is dimensioned with every single minute dimension, because you've already done that when you were actually creating the objects. So all we're doing here is giving the viewer or the reader of the drawing important information about how to perhaps set out the studs on the plates and so on. If we have a look here, we can see the overall height from top to bottom at 1200, and then an important dimension for someone to read would then be obviously that the studs are not that full height, but they are 1130. You'll notice over here I've put in the 35 for the thickness of the top plates. I haven't written 35 on all the studs because you would then assume that they are all the same size. The same with the bottom plates as well. I think I just said about the distances from the left side to the left face, from the left side to the left face of the studs. And that's important for the construction person to know. We've also got an overall length here and also an overall width. So, and also the height or the length, if I must say, of the blocks. So that's enough detail, or that's enough dimensions to go on to an assembly drawing for someone to pick that up in the workshop and to work out what materials they need to cut out, and then to start to cut it out and to assemble. So this is what we're going to try to create. All right, so go across to Fusion. And once you're in Fusion, what I need you to do is we're going to start with frame A. So I need you to open frame A from your data panel. So go find frame A, right click and open, and then obviously you'll be presented with something looking hopefully like this. What I might do is just click on this little triangle here. You can just collapse all that information so it's not sort of clogging up the whole screen. So we're going to create a drawing from this 3D model. So to do that, you need to come to the little folder symbol here, click on the arrow, scroll down, new drawing from design. Now that's from the design that's currently open. If you don't have this design open, it will just give you a blank sheet. So you must have the design open. So from design, and you'll be prompted with this dialog box over here, except yours might look a little more like that when you first do it. The first thing it's asking is, well, do you want all of these parts to be included in your drawing? If you check yes, then they will be. If you uncheck that, you could actually just select certain components that you actually want to be part of the drawing and not all of them. We won't bother about that. We'll just leave ours checked as full assembly. It's going to be a new drawing. We haven't created one before. And you also probably say template from scratch. Now you remember back to the introductory lesson, I got you to download a template and to upload it into Fusion. This is where we need to now go find that template so that it gives us the correct layout or the correct drawing sheet layout. So what I want you to do is to click on the arrow beside from scratch, come down and click on the browse icon, and then I need you to navigate into the folder structure within Fusion and find where you put that KCC template or KCC drawing template. Now I think I put mine in admin files. There it is there. You might have put yours somewhere else inside your folder structure. If you can't remember, you have to go through and check all your different folders. Then double click on KCC drawing and then click select. And you'll see all these other things will disappear because all the standards, the units and the sheet sizes have already been set by the drawing template that I've created for you. Click OK, give it a few seconds, and what it will do then is it'll create a drawing sheet with a border, all the information that's required, and then it will be prompting you to bring in an actual view of the drawing. So down the bottom there, you can see our school crest, our name. It even comes in with the name of the file that you're making the drawing of, who's it created by, dimensions, tolerances, and so on. You'll see that the scale is not in there yet. We're about to actually set that scale. All right, so what's happening as I'm moving my cursor around the screen? It's giving me a preview of like the side view of the frame A. So what I'm going to do is work sort of from the top down here, and rather choosing front view, I'm going to choose my right side view, and you can see now I'm actually looking probably more like at what you might call the front view. It doesn't really matter what you call them here as long as you get the correct orientation. So I'm just going to select front view, and that's not really what I'm after. I'm going to select the right side view. Now I'm looking at the size of the view and the size of the page, and I think it's a bit small. I think we could get that a bit larger. So that's controlled by scale. At the moment the scale is set as 1:20. So I'm going to change that to 1:10. So click on the arrow, find 1:10, and then it gives you a preview of what that would look like at a scale of 1:10. And that's about right. I could fit that front view there. I could put the top view above it and a 3D view to the right. So 1:10. And the last thing to do is to look here. It says style, visible edges, edges visible and hidden edges, shaded, shaded with hidden edges. If I just leave it at visible edges and I then place my drawing by clicking and then clicking OK, you'll notice it only comes in just with the outline of the object. Now most people who work in industry would be able to understand this, but if we're doing this for people who aren't particularly maybe used to reading drawings before, what we can do is actually change the visibility to perhaps include the color of the timber and so on. So what I'll get you to do is to edit its visibility, or to edit the properties of this view. You simply just double click on it, and we're going to come right across to the far right, shaded with hidden edges, and you'll see what the difference will be. Click OK and click close, and all this is in the road, so I can just minimize that like so. And that, I think you would agree, looks easier for you to probably understand rather than just a bunch of lines. So there's the front view of the object. What we're going to do now is project a top view above it. So I want you to select the view by clicking on it once. Come up to this tab that says drawing, and not the left one, but the one directly underneath it says projected view. Click onto that for me, and then bring your cursor above your front view. Now you'll see here what it's doing. It's projecting the view that you're looking directly down on top of that front view. Click once, then move your cursor to the right, and up in the top right corner, as you move it to the top right corner, you'll get this either a side view like so, or if I move a little bit above it, you get this three-dimensional view like so. What I want you to do is to move it up there so the 3D view's up there. Then I want you to click once more time. Well, I don't, though, think we're going to have enough room to have another side view in here. So to get out of this projection view mode, I want you to now hit the escape button on your keypad, and it takes us out of that mode of inserting different views. All right, so the front view and the top view look like they're in a good position, but this three-dimensional view has two things that I think are a bit confusing. It has hidden detail lines all over it, which makes it very difficult to understand, and it's also not on the page correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that drawing by clicking onto it once. And you notice when you click onto a view, a little grey box in the middle appears. That's the anchor point that you then move views around with. So click and drag. I drag it so it's on the drawing, and then click again to reposition it. Probably came in a bit low, might just move that up a little bit. And a little bit again. We've got to fit in a parts list down here later on. And I just click outside the box then to sort of finish it off. But you can see here all these hidden detail lines. Now, 99 times out of 100 three-dimensional views, which this is, do not have hidden detail. So what we need to do, we need to open this view's properties by double-clicking onto it, my left mouse, and change it from being, where are we, visible and hidden edges, just to shaded. So this one here, and click on close, and now you can see all those hidden detail lines have disappeared, which makes it a lot easier to understand the drawing. All right, so that's kind of stage one of this assembly drawing. I've just realized too, I actually haven't saved this, so I need to do that. I better click on save. And I'm going to call it Frame A Assembly, and this is a drawing, so I've actually called it drawing. Frame A Assembly Drawing in Construction Pod. I've actually got one sitting there already, so I might just call this 2. You would leave the 2 off. Click on save. All right, let's have a look at the solution again, and let's see what we need to add. So duck over to the solution on PowerPoint, and this is what we need to do. All right, so we've got the front view, the top view in, we've got our three-dimensional view. All right, let's focus our attention on this parts list and these bomb balloons, and then I'll do a second tutorial on how to do the dimensioning over here. All right, so the parts list and the bomb balloons. Okay, back to Fusion. If you have a look up here, there is a table, there's a tab that says Tables, and beside it says Balloons. What I want you to do is to click onto the one that says Tables, click there once, move your cursor down, and as you move your cursor down, you'll see a table will highlight on your screen. The bottom right-hand corner of this table must always sit directly on the bottom right-hand side of the name block. The name block is this block down here. So as you bring that cursor down, you'll see as you get to the close, a little green square will appear, and that's snapping to that correct position. So once you've got to that point, then click once, and you'll see now we've got our parts list, and also the bomb balloons have appeared. Now we just need to edit this list a bit, and we need to edit the position of these balloons so they're not confusing as well. First thing I'd like to point out is that for this drawing, because it's so simple, there's probably no need to have a description here. So we're going to remove this description column, and we're going to make it probably the distance between the columns here a bit wider so we don't get this double up as well. So if we want to edit this table, you click once on it, and you can see it turns it to blue, and then you've got all these different what do you call them, handles that we can push and pull and so on. We want to get rid of the description column. So to go further into the editing of this table, double click, and you'll see here that you can then control all of these columns and things by turning them on and off. Let's find the one that says description. Let's uncheck that, and you can see it now gives us a lot more room. Click close. I'll come back to that one in a second. And I think it would look much better if we didn't have this double line for Pine and Radiata. So what I'm going to do, select the object, and then click and drag this out here, make it a bit longer. Give myself the same labels, That to there. Oh, it's a bit too far, you can see. And now we can see we've got a list for all of the parts and Pine Radiata. That looks good. The only thing that I don't like is that the parts list label is at the bottom. Most people read from the top down, so what we're going to do, we're going to flip this parts list so it's actually at the top. So once again, select the table. I haven't played with this one before. If I click on that, no, we don't want to do that. Sorry, we'll get out of that. Double click, sorry, on the table, and at the top here it says table direction up. Let's change that to down, and that looks much better. Click on close. Okay, so our table is now correct and looking good. The only thing we need to do now is to tidy up these bomb balloon numbers. Now, they might be working well for you. It totally depends upon the computer program where it's placed the numbers. I think the number 2 here looks good, as in number 2 for the stud is identifying the stud. What I do like to do though is line up this leader line that goes from the bomb balloon to the object. I like to line it up with some other line on the drawing to sort of tidy things up. So I'm going to click once onto the bomb balloon, and then I'm going to click and drag that down a little bit to try to line up this edge a little bit, but make it parallel with those other edges there. I'll do the same with this one here. Now, number 2 is obvious, it's pointing directly at that stud. Number 1 is actually a little bit ambiguous, because you could actually be thinking number 1 is pointing either at the bottom plate or that stud at the moment. So what I'm going to do is select number 1. I'm going to grab the end of the arrow here, which is selecting 1, which is the plate, and I'm going to drag it along a little bit further, so there's no confusion whatsoever as to what number 1 is pointing at. Okay, and then number 3 as well. Let's have a look. 3's got to be pointing at that block, so I'm going to just move that block 3 over there. And let's have a look. Is that pretty obvious? Where else can I move that to? I think that's probably as good as I'm going to get it for number 3. So we've got our bottom plate, our studs, our block. I think we could also add in one more balloon for the top plate. So up here in the balloon tab, let's click on balloon, and it's a standard type of balloon. Let's click on that top plate, click once, drag it away, make it parallel with the other ones, and you can see we've now labeled number 1 bottom plate, number 1 top plate as well, and click on close. Alright, that'll do for this tutorial. I'm going to show you really dimensioning for part B for the second tutorial.